At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name's Morgan, and I'm here with Dave. Woo! Jeez. Our listeners have ears, it turns out, and you just destroyed all of theirs. And,
do you want to redo that one?
And Mike, no, that's staying in. Thank you. Thank you for being considerate.
Sorry, I pulled back on that, too. I could have been louder than that.
Sorry. We had a...
What are you showing off? Guys,
Yeah,
I could have been louder.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
even
I
know
was
how
going
loud
easy.
I could have
You
been.
don't even know. I could have been
Got
so
such
much louder.
Vocal skills.
Yeah. Episode 200, right?
No.
Right? What?
Nah, we brought back a professional for that episode.
It's your
what do you-
episode.
what do you mean?
I don't know what number.
What? Oh.
Yeah, we're playing that game. That probably wasn't my episode 200 either.
No,
so.
it was only my my episode 200. Not even, right?
No, you missed one because we did one when you were
okay,
gone.
then this is my episode 200. Congratulations. No, I've been on every episode. I edited myself into
I'm pretty
that
sure
one.
Yeah,
I
no.
still have 15 more to go, so something like that.
All right.
No, I knew that happened.
This is technically my episode 200 then. All right. So,
Everyone listening at home, I'm sorry.
You did do the Cube episode though, which wasn't technically numbered.
yeah,
So
whatever. That doesn't count.
there you go.
Not technically number episodes.
That
don't
one
count.
doesn't exist.
Much like in comic books, issues 1.1s they're not worth anything. They're stupid.
Yep. So we're I'm back from vacation. Dave is back from vacation. How was your vacation, Mike?
I didn't have one. Are you talking about the one for about 3 months?
Yeah,
bit
that
ago?
one.
Oh, okay.
That one. So
It was nice.
so Dave, you were in Hawaii. How was Hawaii?
It was great.
Good.
Yeah.
I was in Florida. Majority of the time it was fine, but I did get food poisoning, and I've never had food poisoning before, and it is the most sick I've ever been in my entire life. It
Where
was.
did you
Yeah.
food poisoning from?
I went to a public announcement. There is a restaurant called Pat O'Brien's, I believe. Never go there. Just don't.
Was it like the guy from Entertainment Tonight?
Yeah,
Was that Pat O'Brien?
Maybe it's Pat O'Brien.
The guy that had like the voicemail.
Yeah.
That's like a really old reference. People probably won't get that, but go back and listen to it. It's hilarious.
And Dave, Hawaii, I know was so great that you stayed for like an extra 3 days.
Extra 2 days. Yeah, I had 2 flights get canceled on the way back, so darn, had to stay in Hawaii an extra 2 days.
Yeah. It's called Pat O'Brien's. Never go there. Both
Wow.
my wife and I were sick. My wife was only sick for like a little bit. I was sick for the entire day. My body no longer liked liquids anymore, and it just needed to get them all out.
Expelled all the liquids.
Just you need to be like sand.
Every orifice.
You need to be sand. Can you be sand?
Oh,
Yeah,
I hate sand. It gets everywhere.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of the Amazon reviews of the sugar-free gummy bears, which coincidentally I was reading today at work. So, yeah,
Nice.
good times. Yeah.
So other than that, it was a good time. It's always fun to go to Universal, which is my wife and I's favorite. It's our favorite place to go down there because we're both fairly substantial Harry Potter fans, and Catherine definitely more than I. But
We're sitting in Morgan's basement, looking around the room. Yeah, it checks out.
yeah, 100%.
To be fair, that's where
What
that's
does
where
this pillow say?
Oh, they're each one is a different book.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she just
look at
made
that.
those a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
So, but
we have some proclamations hung up.
I do have that same
There's a-
poster.
there's a Marauders
They have
map
the release
right
of the
behind me.
Deathly Hallows book poster. But no, I can attest that my wife and I were there when they got engaged in Diagon Alley. So they're like hardcore.
Yeah. So that was a real good time, except don't get food poisoning. Don't know how you avoid that, though.
Everything was magical except for that. And even then, probably the amount of fluids expelled, kind of magical.
It's like you had a spell put on you.
Yeah, it was a bad one. So there's like the Weasley Brothers, there's the joke shop, and one
Oh,
of
yeah.
the things you can
The
get
puking
is
pasties.
yeah,
right?
exactly. And there's like a little display of like a character like advertising for one and puking, and I was like, "Hey, that was me
That was me,
yesterday."
I did it.
So
So I think as we move into the actual show, we should point out that we're gonna try and probably get back on a regular recording schedule.
Yeah.
this last like month and a
October's-
half has been
yeah,
real
this
bad.
month has not been good.
October has been rough. November, we obviously in November, December, we're going to be missing some time because Magic slows down just around that time.
Yeah, I mean, we
anyway.
have the holidays, but like,
Yeah.
I think none of us even like tweeted anything last week, and that's bad in general. So
Yeah.
like, we're gonna try much like Morgan now and be more regular.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, man.
We're resetting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's jump into community. So the first thing we'll talk about were double face cards in Ixalan were kind of funky in that they weren't printed on the right paper. Basically, some of the double face cards in Ixalan don't have like the blue core. Now, if you don't know what this is, if you ever rip a Magic card, you can see like hints of blue paper in the middle.
You can also see it with I'm trying to remember what it's called, like any sort of magnifying lens. You can see it on the side.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
specifically,
that's
I'm trying to think of a jeweler's. What it's
a loop.
Thank you. You can see it with that.
And they also like this is what like makes the light test a thing as
Right.
well. But these particular double face cards were not printed on this paper, so they failed the light test.
They do have the holographic stamp.
They
though,
do though. Yes,
which
these are obviously all rares.
helps. Yeah, it helps with that. Yeah, of course. So, do you think they're going to have double face cards in Rivals?
I don't know. That is definitely a good question. I really think like the ones in Ixalan were like flavorfully and somewhat competitively successful as far as that goes. I don't see why they wouldn't.
I just wonder if this will bleed into that. If there is like is this something that would have coincided with? Because I would assume that Rivals has started being printed or will be printed soon.
Yeah.
And
probably started.
And this happened.
Yeah,
this definitely
probably
happened in this at least the second, if not the third, printing of Ixalan, depending on how much it is. So I just wonder, and they might even be printed at the same place, to be quite honest. But
Yeah.
I do wonder if that bleeds into the next set.
I don't know, but it's just like it's another like thing on top of a bunch of other things that people have been coming down really hard on as far as their printing of cards, like their actual quality, the fact that we've had like some pretty substantial leaks like within the past couple of sets.
Well, this set specifically.
Yeah, this set
Like,
specifically,
like, the
but
whole set was basically.
If you remember, we had a bunch of like Oath of the Gatewatch cards spoil like really, really, really early, like obviously a few sets back. But this is kind of just another thing where it's just like, oh man, you're kind of getting hit hard, Wizards, by like people genuinely having complaints against quality, and this is like something that they had to like write an article about and release it.
Not a great look, and I really do hope they fix this with two I'll say two prominent master sets, and then of course the unstable coming out too. Like you've got a lot of sets coming out, and I'm really upset if like something like Iconic Masters or Masters 25 looks like MM3 did. That's gonna be
Yeah.
sad.
with the late, like
Well, the cards just look fake. We're just
Yeah.
cards
Yeah.
like I cannot believe how many Scalding turns I saw where I was like, that looks like an ink stamp. Like you were just like, yeah, ink this up and here we go. Like you put down some silly putty on an actual Scalding card.
You take it off, and you're like, oh man,
Let's stick this to another card.
works just like newspaper. How about that? But
I'm gonna try that. Sounds fun.
I'm gonna guess it probably doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Don't try to
but-
play it in a tournament though.
Hey, Dave, can I borrow some Scalding turns for the weekend? Unrelated.
I'm using them. Actually.
Unrelated.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll have them back for Saturday. I just need them for a few days.
Okay.
So, but they are real cards still, so you can still play with them, even though they will be physically different. They have different weights even.
By a number of metrics, they look and feel fake. That's weird, but hey,
It's
what are you
weird.
gonna
They're
do?
real cards.
So this came out last week.
Yes.
While I was still on vacation, or maybe the week before. I don't know. But so I didn't pay too much attention to social media and things that were going. But the kind of the feeling that I got was that Wizards had an announcement or kind of an article talking about it, and they didn't really say anything.
No, they did not say anything. Which is interesting because
It was
like
a little disappointing.
they've been so it just depends. They've been more open about what they're doing. Like the Ixalan leak, they flat out told us that they're pursuing charges for that. But so maybe they just can't say anything right now. You know what I mean? And it also just may not have been. It may just literally have been like, oops. You know what I mean? And that's frustrating, but it does happen, especially when you're printing that many cards. So there may not actually be anything else to say. You know what I mean? Like oops, we put the wrong paper in for this batch. That's our bad. So I will say it did prompt like Chaz Andres to write an article discussing like how the community might want to like consider sharing information like that differently, which was sort of interesting, and it's certainly a thing that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
All right, next up, we actually have our first previews for Rivals of Ixalan, because we have the Magic Open House promo and the Magic Store Championship promo, I believe is what they are now. You don't have Game Day
Used to be
anymore.
Game Day.
Yeah, and you went to Game Day and you got both of these, but now you have to go to 2 different events to get these, as far as
to be fair, one of them is worth it. The other one, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? So the first one is for the Magic Open House, and it is Silvergill Adept. And this is going to be a full art Silvergill,
Silver Girl.
Silvergill Adept, which is a reprint from the Lorwyn block. This card is play to Merfolk. It's one of the linchpins in that deck that make it kind of run. And if you don't know what it is, it's 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk. And then when it enters the battlefield, you either reveal a Merfolk from your hand or pay 3 generic mana. And then when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card.
Is it enters? I think it's additional cost.
Additional cost or whatever.
I
forget. I don't have the card
It works
up right
very
now.
well with Aether Vial and
Yeah.
But it's also important to note that card, along with like Curse Catcher, are some of those cards in Merfolk that have sort of like been super expensive recently because of how few there were. So this really helps with that. I doubt we see Curse Catcher too, but it's possible.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know. They like those kind of cards. They really do.
Yeah, but I mean, so then we have that, and then the pirate one.
I don't know if those necessarily play that well together. But
No.
do.
But I mean, they're just saying like
Sure.
multiple iterations of that card.
I mean, one is they're technically both different counter spells. One is like
Targets.
half a spell pierce. The other one is turn aside, right? But
Yeah.
but no, I doubt it as well. But it's just cool to see something like that. Like obviously it probably has standard implications, but also just a card that will immediately go down in price in modern and legacy. To be quite honest,
I'm just excited for what that means because I think everybody's in agreement that Ixalan, while there are a lot of cool cards, the tribes aren't strong enough to really compete in current standard format. And this is a card that is obviously a staple in modern Merfolk, and even if you want to play in Legacy, it's played in that too. So I mean, it's obviously a powerful card, has seen a lot of competitive play, and if this is the caliber of card that they're going to be printing or even reprinting, then I'm excited to see what else they're going to have in the set.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's an awesome card to have be this type of promo. This is going to be desirable. It may not be. It's not foil, so people who are looking to go that direction with their Merfolk decks may not be interested in it. But people who like the full art promo sort of style, this is a cool card to have access to, I think. And I like that style, but I'm not playing Merfolk anytime soon. And then the Store Championship promo is pretty exciting. Now, I have to say, before we get to talk about the promo, the playmat that they're going to give out for that is actually really, really cool because it's a map of Ixalan, and that's awesome. That's out of all the things that you can get for winning, that's probably the most enticing thing. And I'm glad they're going that direction instead of just giving a playmat with some probably cool art, and it's just as a champion. It's just nah.
To be fair, they've moved away from that. You had cool things like Worthy Challenger and
yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
But it is the card that you're going to be getting for. Is this top 8? I assume, or
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm guessing it is. It's probably foil.
Yeah.
This is the foil one. I don't know how many they're going to be giving out, but the card is Galta Primal Hunger. And it is a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. It costs 10 generic, green, for a 12/12 trample. But it has this additional clause on it that says, this creature costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. So you can potentially get this guy out for cheap if you have a pretty substantial board. And the fact that it's an Elder Dinosaur is, kind of cool as far as flavor is concerned, and it's Phyrexian Dreadnought, right? It's a 12/12.
I think it's This card is more similar to what's the Colossus from Kaladesh?
Metalwork Colossus. Yeah, it definitely
kind
does
of
feel like that.
but like not as
But
good, probably.
worse.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it
yeah.
does
Because
trample
you have
though.
to play things that interact. Yeah, I don't know. You're just playing a big dumb guy. The way you already have a board full of big dumb guys. Like,
I don't think this is going to be. Well, I don't know. I mean, the cards that they've made for like these types of promos before have been playable, so maybe it's better than it looks at first glance. But I'm not like super excited about.
no,
this.
like it's fine. I will say we have some stuff in standard that this already works well with. We do have a Cradle variant that hasn't seen too much play, but
Yeah.
that tends to work well with a card like this, where either A, you want a swarm of creatures to flip that card, or B, you want a bunch of mana to cast this one. Those are things that you want, and this is certainly an okay finisher. In that sort of like elf ball style strategy where you just want to accumulate mana, or in this case you don't have to accumulate mana, you just have to accumulate creature power, which is nice. But again, like I don't know. It feels just like a big dumb guy, but
It does definitely feel just like a big dumb guy. I agree with that. And I think like you still have like a scatter in the format, and like just it just
yeah.
feels like kind of meh when you have something like Carnage Tyrant where
well, not just that. Like this to make this cost like people are like, oh, you could cost 2. Like, well, if it costs 2, you already have 10 power in play.
yeah,
So like.
you're already winning. Like,
Now, this could certainly, maybe this is a board stall card for mid-range mirrors. That I could see being kind of spicy, where it's like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make a bunch of 1/1 Thopters, and we're going to block in oh, that's a 12/12 with trample. Well, we can't make Thopters anymore.
Right.
Like, maybe that's it. Like, it could certainly see play, but I don't know. I'm more interested in the creature type,
yeah,
because this is, as you mentioned, an Elder dinosaur. And I was like, man, we haven't seen Elders since the Dragon Lords from Khans of or from Dragons of Tarkir, I should say. And that's kind of cool. So I wonder if we're going to get a cycle of these Elder Dragons, much like we had our Dragon Lords, and that'll be cool if we do. When I say cycle, we'd only be in 3 colors. All right,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that would be cool. Just be these sort of ancient beasts that are on Ixalan. That'd be sweet to see. And if not, that's fine too. But it's just a creature type you don't see that often.
yeah,
So
This is just old fogey, right?
yeah,
Like
pretty
like
much
the real old fogey.
the truest.
they did it. They printed him. That's good.
Yeah, so I mean that's just a little bit of a taste of what we can expect, and I mean I think Silvergill Adept is the more exciting of the 2 cards that we talked about, just because that's kind of a known quantity. We obviously don't know what's going to happen in Rivals, so it's a little bit harder to properly judge, Galta. But hey, maybe I'm willing to be again, pleasantly surprised by something that's a bit more cool. I think it's kind of nifty that your like mana creatures kind of do double duty, which is kind of nice. So your servants and your drovers of the mighty, stuff like that, they kind of count twice, which could be something. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see to what the rest of Rivals brings us. But that is everything for the community. Before we jump into the competitive segment, definitely want to talk about Comic Town. They're going to be hosting the Star City Games Regionals this Saturday, November 4th. This will be a modern format 5K with prizes given out to the top 32. This event will be held at the Columbus Courtyard West. Entry fee is going to be $40, and we'll start with a 10 a.m. players meeting. So make sure you go ahead and actually pre-register for this event. It is available for you to do so. You can find more information via Facebook. Once you locate Comic Town Gaming Center, it'll be in their events page. And it'll link you out to where you could buy tickets actually for this.
Yeah, this is a capped event.
Correct.
And
It's
it has
capped at
sold
250
out.
players. Yeah, and it's definitely sold out in the past. I mean, it's the Midwest is definitely a pretty heavy Magic.
Midwest.
We love modern around here.
We love
it's a big
most
modern
certainly.
tournament.
So definitely, if you're planning on coming, make sure you do pre-register. There is a playmat and token given out to the first 100, I believe. If I believe that's how much it starts to gives out for these sort of things. So again, check the event for the correct total and if there are any still available. But jump on it if you'll be out there, and some of us will likely see you there. And then if you would rather play Standard, there will be a Standard tournament on that Sunday held at Comic Town. It's going to be a Star City Games IQ, starting at noon with a players meeting. And that event, I believe, is $30 to enter.
Yeah, I think that's the standard.
Yeah, that's
entry.
the standard going rate for
Run out
entry.
of time to qualify if you're planning on going out at the end of, or at the beginning of December. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. I will be playing in regionals, and I need to top 32. That'll give me 4 SCG points, and that'll qualify me. So,
are you gonna be going back to Roanoke? Because
If I qualify,
you're
yeah.
go by yourself.
If I qualify, yeah.
At this
I
point,
cashed
even if I
last time,
qualified,
yeah.
I wouldn't be going.
Wow.
It's not worth it.
Just too many things in December. Like that's
Yeah.
that's a big weekend to give up when we already going to the Comic Town Championship with the next weekend. So
It's either the weekend before or the weekend after.
yeah, it's one
but-
of those two. So
Yeah. I just don't like Roanoke, so I wouldn't bother going anyway.
no,
Not that I'm
it
ever
doesn't really
huge.
matter where it is. It's worth going for the money, in my opinion. But like, I just think that isn't worth my, unfortunately, my time right now.
Fair enough.
Sad times.
All right, competitive. First, we're gonna talk about some limited GPs. I know this is everyone's favorite part of the show.
All right, no, here's what it is. I'm officially retiring this. Unless there's a specific reason to, we are done talking about limited GPs in this format.
Look what I wrote on here.
I know.
But these things happened.
We're not going to talk
Okay.
about they happened. That's
they don't even exist anymore.
no, like what's it matter? People do not listen to this. We are not limited resources. People do not come to us for limited acumen. We don't even gain anything by talking about it besides, hey, congratulations, you won. Congratulations, person that won these GPs. I don't know who it is. I could look it up. I'm not going to. Let's move on. Executive decision. Who I'm gonna hold
Yeah,
to a
no,
vote.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
Say aye if we will not stop talking about limited GPs unless we played in them or they had some other sort of significance. Aye?
Yeah, sounds good.
Redo gloss in the finals of
Aye or nay?
I. We'll move
Dave,
on.
aye or
I
nay?
already said aye.
Okay, good. We have 3 ayes. Motion passes. Goodbye, limited GPs. We
No
hardly knew you.
longer. Episode 201. Breaking down walls.
We're rebooting hard. This is a hard reboot.
Changing the game.
We're actually switching up our character roles as well.
Yeah, clearly.
Dave's going to be the funny one. He's not. He's not going to be funny.
He's not. All right. So obviously we missed talking about Star City Games Cincinnati, which none of us went to, oddly enough.
Hey, but we're going to talk about it. You know why? Because it's a good format.
I wanted to go to it, and I had said before on that cast that I was considering it. And then I remember we had softball playoffs that Sunday, and we would have forfeited if I had not gone to it. We got crushed, and afterwards I was like, man, I kind of wish I would have gone to that. But I then spent that night in the hospital, so I was glad I didn't go to Cincinnati. So, not to be vague, I was in pain. So there we go. Not from losing, though. Maybe it was.
Who knows? It was won by Collins Mullins. Collins Mullen, and he
No, I liked it the first time. Collins
multiple
Collins Smullins.
and he played a deck that kind of broke out this tournament. He played humans, and
Mans.
this isn't collected companies humans or anything like that. This is just like a bunch of creatures, 4 Aether Vials, go, and
No lands.
No, actually,
It's 20 lands.
It's actually the inverse of that. 12 anything you want to cast off them lands, ostensibly.
yeah,
So
because we had Ancient Ziggurat. What? Ziggurat?
it's a ziggurat, man.
Ziggurat.
Ziggurat. Excuse me.
Wow.
I thought all I could think of was that stupid comic, Ancient Ziggy.
I mean,
Why are you so old, Ziggy? This is a comic. He can draw you younger.
excuse me. And then we had Cavern of Souls and Unclaimed Territory of being the 12 anything goes lands.
Yeah, anything goes lands for humans. So,
For
honestly,
who lands.
the only other thing you're playing in this deck, as we said, is Aether Vials. So, Ancient Ziggurat can't cast it, but the other ones can too. So,
For sure.
Yeah. So this deck is literally 36 creatures, 4 Aether Vials, and 20 lands. And then the sideboard is mostly creatures. Is it all creatures?
I
Yeah,
think so.
it's all creatures. So.
all creatures
This
all the
is the,
time.
all creatures, all.
This is the
all creatures in the filler.
yeah. What was the second? What was that set that was all creatures? Was it not Onslaught?
Legion.
Yeah, it was Legion. This is the legions of
Yeah, of modern decks, yeah.
Oh, there's no slivers here though. Can we just call this Thalia Tribal?
Yeah.
It has Thalia, Heretic Cathar, Thalia Guardian Thraben, and all of Thalia's lieutenants.
Yeah.
So,
But I think that the real card that kind of made this deck even viable is definitely Kitesail Freebooter. That card being sort of your interactive your interactive card to be able to basically take things from your storm decks, your other various other combo decks is what I'm trying to say.
And it comboed, not to be cheeky, but it comboed really well with the 4 copies of Meddling Mage.
Yeah.
So you could play Freebooter, look at their hand, take something, and then also know what you could name the next turn off your Meddling Mage. And you can go back, and I know he was, even against his finals opponent, I know you could see some interactions that worked out this way, that you just had, you were able to play this disruption, you could stick Athalia as well, which and then sort of just ride that. You're taking advantage of some of these very non-interactive combo decks where you would look at a deck like this and go, okay, you're just going to lose to this. But instead, you have enough disruption that they actually don't have the interaction to mess with your disruption easily enough to stop you from just winning. Because the other thing this deck does is it really attacks pretty well. You can play, and I know Keller, who's obviously been on the show before. This got him to consider playing Modern, because you can play turn 2 Mantis Rider and then attack with an Exalted trigger. Oh my gosh, I'm saying this out loud and I'm playing this deck. You can't borrow cards anymore.
Yeah,
Then you need to borrow cards from him.
Yeah, I need anything else.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mantis Rider, and I'm glad to see that it's found a home in Modern, and I think that Collins went undefeated. Correct, he went 14-0-1. And then swept the knockout rounds.
I think he scooped to somebody.
Did he?
I think it was 14-1. Yeah,
Okay.
It's like when you say undefeated, it's like you didn't go for the full 15-0 and then sweep through.
Yeah,
It's kind of a coward move.
yeah, a bit.
Wow, shots are fired.
Oh, we'll call him out.
I'm just joking.
Dave's Nolan just calling out Collins Mullen.
He obviously dominated the tournament.
No, he really did. This was impressive, and I think we've seen the Humans deck a couple times. I know, Morgan, you have a loose version of this deck built, though yours is the company version, right?
Yeah, I have pieces of it pretty much, but
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. Like, I think that's like a card that's like has been kind of automatic in these types of decks. These like kind of like 30 creature or whatever, or 30x creature deck. And he just like, you know what? I don't even need to collect the company. Just Aether Vial. That's it.
And he did write an article on the Select side of Star City about his tournament. He definitely took this list and adapted it from some things that were doing well on Moto, and it sort of talked about the reasoning why like this deck isn't looking for card advantage, which is what Collect the Company is trying to do, and it's not trying to combo out. So it just wants to play. It wants to almost work like Affinity at that point. You just want to get a density of your humans out, and then play a mayor or play a lieutenant and just start bashing.
Yeah.
So. I really respect that, and this plays a lot of cards that I think people just like in general. It's like Mayor Averbruck is a card that just makes me happy every time I see it in play. It's like, yeah, buddy, you know what? You keep running for office, and I'm going to keep voting for you.
You're gonna keep getting in there.
So, yeah, it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out, I know, Morgan, you said that Freebooter was an important addition, and it is. But I also think that Unclaimed Territory is also a super important card here. Is kind of a strictly Rest Cavern of Souls, but that's fine. But this, that and also being able to play Ancient Ziggurat really allow you to play 5 colors really
Easily.
very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you can literally play any human. You could just gather, search, find whatever humans you want to play.
If you look at the sideboard, you can almost play any creature too. Like,
Yeah.
we have. I mean, I know these are not all humans, right? Or are they?
I think
I take it back. I'm sorry.
Canonist is not.
Canonist is a human. I just looked. Never mind.
It
They're all
is?
humans. My bad.
Yep. Either Sworn Canonist is a human.
I just figured
Also,
it was like a
fun
Vulcan or
fact:
something.
Zithian Renegades was a card I had never seen until I saw this deck. I had never read it before in my life. So,
Never saw Vithian
or
Renegades?
Vithian. I said Zithian.
Oh, yeah.
Vithian. I said Zithian because Zath the Necromancer is right underneath it, so I definitely flipped them up. But yeah, I never until I saw this list, I'd never even heard of that card. That's what I get for not playing during a set. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, this was really nifty.
Yeah, and this is like one of those decks that we will see. Not to give away some spoilers, but we'll see that this deck has continued to be okay.
It's got at least 2 legs.
Yeah, 2 legs.
Mostly bipedal, but
Mostly bipedal, as humans tend to be.
sometimes Mayor of Averbrook Rock.
Hey, sometimes he gets a little wild. I understand. He embraces wild side.
Well, wild and crazy kids.
But this is the kind of deck that you can like buy into, and they're going to be printing more humans in Magic. Like it's just a type that exists. So like it only stands to get better theoretically.
I will say the deck is definitely not cheap though.
No,
like
I'm not
you say,
saying it
buy
is.
in. Like this is a deck that currently has 4 copies of Cavernous Souls. It's a $50
like
card.
Aether Vial,
4
Noble
copies
Hierarch.
of Noble Hierarch, 4 copies of Vial, and then 2 copies of Horizon Canopy. Which yes is going to go down a little bit because of Iconic Masters, but that's before you get to any of the humans. So if you're like, wow, the humans are kind of cheap. I mean, things like Thalia are actually kind of pricey, and you're like, oh, I could buy these, and then you're like,
Yeah, and obviously this deck has done fairly well for itself. So Thalia is she used to be cheaper than she is right now. She's about double in price. So
yeah, that's gross.
yeah,
No, that's a price that makes sense to me though. Like Thalia's played in like Death and Taxes is currently one of the more popular legacy decks.
Yeah.
Like it's a card that's hard to reprint.
It's played in like
we were literally just on the plane where they could have reprinted it. They reprinted the other one that we're playing.
I'm kind of surprised it hasn't always been this price, to be honest. Like I was surprised that it was like $6-7 for a long time.
Yeah. When I was trying to pick them up, they were around 10. That's what I was picking them up
Well,
at.
it's such a staple of like the white creature decks in modern.
$20 a pop.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like white creature decks in both modern and legacy. But
Yeah.
really depend on Thalia to kind of
I mean,
slow down the combo.
When we
decks,
take a look at the Cincinnati top 8, there are 12, Thalia Guardian Therians across the top 8 because there's 2 other Death and Taxes decks in this modern top 8. So Thalia is just kind of, with Storm being popular, it's kind of not shocking that Thalia might also be somewhat popular now.
I gotta say I'm not a fan of Thalia because all the decks that I play are basically pretty spell heavy, so it's always a really annoying card.
So here's just a card I've seen a lot of recently that you might consider. It's called Geist Flame. It deals 1 damage for a single red mana, but then you can flash it back and deal with. It would cost 5 then, but you can deal with the second Thalia if they have it. I've been playing a lot of Innistrad flashback drafts.
Hey, we don't talk about limited on this podcast.
Not even Innistrad.
We vetoed it
flashback?
out.
we did it.
We voted
I said
it out.
GPs.
You
to be
doomed
fair,
yourself.
but
We voted it out.
it was great. Anyways,
Speaking of Storm, Collins Mullen did defeat Scott Simmons in the finals playing Blue-Red Storm.
Turn 2 kill.
Yeah, turn
For
to
humans.
Yeah, that's what a good old meddling mage will do, depending on what you have in your hand.
No, you just meddling mage and
yeah, no,
name
against this
Grapeshot?
build, you name Grape Shot, and they actively can't win the game.
Yeah, against game 1.
That's what I said. That's what it was. Game 1, like
Yeah,
actively can no longer win the game. Crazy.
Most builds of Storm do not have any other win condition game 1. Some of them do have like 1 empty to kind of hedge, but I think most builds that are out there would just have the Grape Shot kill. Now post board, obviously they bring in bolts dismembers. That's like the general removal package that you have, and then also some number of empty the warrants.
You know what sideboard card's probably really good against this humans deck?
There's a lot of good sideboard.
Blood
cards.
Moon.
Yeah, I figured that out. That's why I'm playing it this weekend.
I'm just looking at that list. We just talked about how it plays all these these 12 lands that can tap for anything. You know what they're really good at tapping for? Red.
Yeah. It is a little bit awkward because this deck can come out quickly.
Yeah.
And also, if they have a vial, then they can kind of circumvent the Blood Moon. But, I'm not going to lie.
That is true.
It's a good card. And if you're able to, kill their vial or something, then you're in business. But they can get under it sometimes, so it's not like an automatic.
No, it
kill.
isn't. But I don't know. Just because of Aether Vial, it may not actually be worth the board in. But ostensibly, it's good. I do want to talk about this version of Storm here a little bit. Like obviously, Storm is a pretty known commodity, but it's made a real comeback recently with this Gifts Ungiven version. We've had recent additions like Brawl, Chief of Compliance, which brought it back here. We now have Opt, which you would be so amazed at how much that does for this deck. It really does a lot. This one's only running 2 copies of it, but it's still just another another one of these cantrips that work well for it. But people are really liking this version, or maybe not this version specifically, but the more recent builds of it, because you can actively play this deck. This one has fetches, Scott Simmons does, but you can also play this deck without fetches.
Yeah.
And if you're playing the people that have been playing 4 opts, there's a large contingent talking about how it might actually be better to play it without fetches because of you now have 8 spells with Scry. So you actually gain incremental advantage out of the stacking of scries as you build. Obviously, you still have a shuffle effect and gifts ungiven, but once you're gifting, you're probably going off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's certainly interesting and has made this deck one of, if not currently, the cheapest deck in the format.
Yeah, and it's
Which
one
is
of the
crazy.
best decks in the
It's
format.
like it is actually crazy. If you look at this, like the cards that are worth money, once you've taken Scalding Tarn out of it, because you're not going to play it, you have Steam Vents and Spire Bluff Canals, which are $10 cards each, but Steam Vents is a little more expensive than that now. I know it's a little higher than that. And then Gifts Ungiven, which has been reprinted a number of times.
Yeah.
Past in Flames is still practically nothing, unless
And
I'm crazy and it just spiked.
In the list that don't play fetches also don't play.
Still $4.
The list that don't play fetches don't play Blood Moons in the board either.
Right.
So that's another card that's a little. It's not too bad anymore.
No,
It's
but like you're
yeah.
talking about like a deck that you could build a serviceable version of this deck for peanuts for a modern deck. You're talking under $150.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably scary because this is not a deck I'd want to buy into right now because anytime Storm is good, you've got to be aware of the all-seeing eye of WotC. But
Yeah, I mean, I was able to buy into this. I mean, I obviously have Scalding Tarns and all that, but I had most of the cards for it anyway.
Yeah,
and I just needed to get like Barals, and I was like, oh, cool.
I don't have
Storm.
Barals or Gifts Ungivens. Otherwise, I could play this deck.
Yeah,
So
I bought into those for whatever.
yeah, why
was
not?
$30
why
or
not?
something like that,
I know
and
you've
like, I
been
was good
working
to
pretty
go.
hard on building the toolbox, though. That pretty much anything that could have Scalding Tarn.
Anything that has blue
play.
cards, yeah.
So, but I think that's pretty interesting. Like right now, you have I don't know how often you have in any format, if it's standard, if it's whatever it is, where you have a deck that is like this. It was Burn before, and Burn itself is still not too terrible if you build it without fetches. Because of the reprinting of Goblin Guide, but like you still have like Eidolons, which are double digits apiece, that sort of thing.
I mean,
you have a deck that's better than Burn by far.
But this deck, this deck has won multiple opens. Like
Right,
I think it is tier 1 modern.
Yeah, and
I
as we
mean,
know, other red decks, even if they top 8, they are not good enough to win opens.
especially when they have green in them.
That wasn't this one, but it top 8 recently again, didn't it? Or was it this one? I don't remember.
I think it was the week before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did it win the tournament? No,
no,
it
but
didn't.
whatever. It made the top 8 again. We're talking about the Ponza deck. So I just think I think it's pretty cool for Modern. Obviously, we know where Modern is, and it's pretty open. And we've got some cool things I think going forward. Like we talked, when we talked before when Jordan was on about the Modern Pro Tour and the possibility of having an unbanning. I think it's pretty cool to see where Modern is and see how it keeps cycling and how honestly, despite what we've thought about recent standard sets, we see that those standard sets have really helped Modern and really continue to push new archetypes. We've seen things like Smuggler's Copter seeing play. Oh wait, that got banned in standard. But Reflector Mage, we said Reflector Mage in the most recent Humans deck we just talked about, plus the cards from Ixalan. Opt being here, but even though that's not a new card in Magic, a new card for the format, and Baral being in this deck, so we really see a lot of decks that are not just Eldrazi, everything else, but really taking cards from the new standard and forging new archetypes. And I think it's exciting for Modern because it tells us that Modern can continue to grow even as standard becomes a different animal entirely. Like, moves further and further away from the Magic that Storm is, for example. So I think it's cool. Maybe I'm just talking out my butt here, but I think that's exciting to see.
Do you guys?
I think it's exciting.
I mean, we could talk about the Blue Green Merfolk deck. We talked about it the week before, but Merfolk is an archetype that's as old as Magic. Like Lord of Atlantis has been around forever, and here you have it being innovated by the Green Merfolk cards we see printed in this set. And I think that's really cool to me. When you look at things like having Kapala in that deck, having Merfolk Branchwalker be a 4 of in this deck, having Unclaimed Territory in this deck, having Kumana Speaker in this deck, like. That's cool. I think that is interesting and fun to see for Magic. So, but no one else has any feelings about things or ways, so that's fine.
No, I mean it's obvious.
Merfolk.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I mean,
It's obviously.
I agree with what you're saying.
You take
yeah.
like one of the oldest decks in Magic and add some modern spice to it. That's cool.
No,
Yeah.
I obviously think it's like it probably feels good in some ways for design, for them to be able to to hit into modern, and like it's hard for cards to break through that. We've seen that time and time again about cards trying to get there in modern or older formats in general, legacy, vintage, what have you. So for us to see like multiple cards for multiple sets do that is fairly interesting, because I don't think we've grown accustomed to that, or maybe we did at one point in time and like they scaled things back, but.
I will point out that like almost every card you mentioned is a creature, though. It's like obviously creatures are much better now than they used to be.
Opt is a spell.
Yeah, that's one. An unclaimed territory, but every other card was a creature.
Collected Company in third place. This Counters Company. Collected Company now defines a green decks in general. That's a spell.
Yeah.
Boom, roasted.
But it gets creatures.
So
yeah, and still a spell.
I think, I mean, when you talk about
Spell
that,
Pierce is in standard.
when you talk about that, though, I think it's just harder to make powerful spells. Powerful spells are harder to rein in within like the standard format, I think, because like Collected Company is like a good example, but Collected Company was kind of gross while it was in standard, or at least got there. It wasn't initially, but like the longer it stays in a format, the more disgusting it tends to get when it's something that powerful. So I think making powerful spells that break into modern are just, the longer that they stay in a standard format, they tend to probably just get a little bit more unwieldy, and they're probably just harder to make and keep in check.
I was more just commenting on just the overall design of Magic, how it's been for the last however many years.
And that's what I said. I think you even to see what we have an eye on in modern design, which is creatures, and to see that those creatures are good enough to make it into these older formats is kind of nice. Maybe people don't like that, but I think it's okay that you have. I think it's okay that you have humans fighting against Storm. Like, I think that's a-okay to me. Like, Storm, if Storm's going to be a good deck, that's fine. I don't really, as long as it's not oppressive, I don't really have a problem with that. And it doesn't feel oppressive.
Yeah.
Like, this is beatable.
So yeah,
but I also am very happy that my the opponent on the other side of that can cast Kitesail Freebooter and beat Storm with it. Like that also makes me really happy. So
I was going to ask you guys, what are your feelings on the power level of Storm right now? Are you okay with how good Storm is? Is it too good? Because like before this Humans that kind of broke out, people were kind of like, I don't know, Storm's been winning, some opens, and it was having a lot of good, high level finishes, putting multiples into top eights and things like that. I personally think I think it's fine. I think there are ways to fight it. It's obviously good and consistent, but there are ways to beat it. So
I would have to guess that the answer to that question probably depends on how long you've been playing Magic, right? Like, I think you and I specifically, Dave, have seen Storm be so good so many times that I immediately get a little... I can't help it. I get a little bit of that, whenever Storm's doing well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I've played against this version of Storm a number of times. I'm definitely of the opinion that people are bad at playing against Storm. Like, they always are looking at the wrong card or countering the wrong spell or whatever. And I think if you know how to play against the deck and you have hate for it, and when you look at the format in general, there's a lot of hate for the deck still. Like, you have multiple decks running around with main deck Chalice. You know what I mean? Like, some good against it. You have things like Death Shadow, which we saw a new version of that sort of work out here, that's running Stubborn Denial and Thoughtseize and all these other things, plus a hard to like I was saying, an early Death Shadow is hard for Storm to fight through at times. I think you have enough, and you can always play more hate. Like, there's a lot of cards that are really good against Storm currently, and they have that carryover to them. Like, you can play things like Rule of Law if you want to and really go that route. But even stuff like having Graveyard Hate is also good against a lot of other decks and makes them play a different game. So I'm of the opinion that the deck is probably fine.
I think it's fine for now, but I think it's
it's certainly on the watch. Like I said, it's when I make the Eye of Sauron joke, I'm not kidding. Like Storm does well and the eye shifts. Like, it's just like boom, like somebody put the ring on, the Storm ring, and now we're gonna watch intently. Because it makes that's the flip side of this. That makes, when Storm is that good, it makes it really hard to print cards in Standard without being careful, because it wouldn't take that. You look at something like Chart of Course, for example, like, that's not great in Storm right now because it requires attacking to be at its best, but it's a card that you've already seen get a little dabble play in Modern because it's a really efficient draw spell, and you just got to look at that kind of stuff and go, like, let's be careful. So I think that's the only issue of when Storm is just that good. But I think you'll see the format push back against it. You could also see John Finkel walk into the Modern Pro Tour, crush it with Storm, and it's banned the next week. And that's just the truth.
I was going to say, there are a lot of pros that like to play
they love
Storm.
it.
And when it's good, then I think, they're obviously going to play it.
Sure.
So,
Morgan, we've sort of. What are your thoughts on Storm?
I think Storm is in this version. It is probably fine, but I don't see a reason why they don't just like ban a key card from it and just get rid of it.
I agree with this as well. Wizards has made it very clear that they don't like Storm, so why they haven't just outright banned the cards with Storm?
Just ban Grape Shot. Done. The deck's dead.
I like that there is a deck like this in the format because I like there being different styles.
But this deck was already good in the format before. Ad Nauseam is this deck that's good in the format that doesn't interact in a meaningful way.
See, I don't feel like Ad Nauseam is the same though. Ad Nauseam's like a 2-card combo, whereas Storm is really,
I think the combos are different, but I will say when people like Keller, like friend of the show, says that modern comes down to decks being not interactive. You know what I mean? Like I like the Humans deck, I like the finals, but when you say literally that like you have a finals where either what's his name, Scott Simmons is going to take all like one giant turn to go off, and that's what's going to be on camera, and then you're playing solitaire while your opponent sits there. Kibler wrote F6 on a piece of paper, but that's the truth, right? That's not good for Magic. And the flip side of that, where you have a deck that's built like that, and your opponent goes Meddling Mage, name Grape Shot, game over, like that's not good Magic. That's not Magic. Like you're not playing interactive Magic.
Well, the thing with the Meddling Mage though is the Storm decks can adapt to that. Like if that's going to be a thing,
I'm aware. But my point is that you have something that's so non-interactive. That this is why they banned Second Sunrise. Storm goes off a lot faster than Sunrise did.
Yes,
but you're playing. I was going to say a word that I'm sure Morgan would like us to say on here. So
please don't.
But you're just playing solitaire, and that isn't enjoyable for anyone. That's why I think so many people have complained about, and this could still happen. But if Lantern became the prominent deck that was on camera all the time, I think you'd see that deck get banned out because it just is miserable to watch. Storm is miserable to watch. You can't follow it. There's no good graphic you can have on it for it, and it's what people hate in the format. It's not interactive in any way. You know what I mean?
I don't hate it.
Like the difference between that and Ad Nauseam is a 2-card combo where your hate against them can hate the combo, whereas against Storm you have to play correctly against it because all of their cards outside of their win condition are just redundant. They either draw cards or add mana. Sometimes both. Like that's it. That's the entire point of the deck. They either draw cards or add mana. It's not what I think WotC wants in the format. But I'm crazy because again they could have just banned. They could have been Grape Shot at the beginning of the format, and every time they think that like, all right, Storm's neutered again, it's back again. I don't care that it's good. I really don't. I don't care that it's good. But I could see it getting banned.
Yeah, like whatever. But I just like either WotC. I just don't understand like WotC wants to spend their time and energy like trying to like maintain like this perfect balance for this one deck in this one format, and it's just like no, just stop it. Just like don't worry about it. Ban Grape Shot and get it over with. Like. Who cares? Like
again, I think I disagree with that. I don't think they need to do that right now. I think the deck is fine.
Yeah.
But again, it could turn out to be like the Pro Tour causes this to happen where it is that good. But at the same time, like I think they could also just choose to ignore those results. They did with Splinter Twin for years until they finally banned it. And I don't think that Storm is going to hurt the competitive diversity of like Scalding Tarn, for example. Yeah, which is what was happening. What was their argument, before for Twin? And to be quite honest, as much as I would love to see Splinter Twin come off the ban list, and please WotC consider it, but I do think that they have shown that much like they did with Green Sun Zenith, when they've made some of these bannings, or Birthing Pod, for example, when they make these bannings in the name of competitive diversity. Well, you've seen more blue-red decks because there isn't Splinter Twin. You have seen more diverse green decks because there isn't Birthing Pod. Now you could see a counter. You're just like to see a company deck as you are to see a core deck as you are to see an Eldritch Evolution deck, and I think that's cool. So I don't know. I don't know what I want from this. I buried the lead. I did. I buried the lead.
No.
Anything else you want to talk about from this open?
Well, we should do want to mention at least talk about the 5-color Death Shadow deck for a minute because that can also be listed in the other thing I want to talk about.
I actually I like this deck.
So 13th place, this is Chris Anderson, but also we saw Clay Spickelmeyer playing this as well, and I'm not sure who
I think
else.
it's the same list.
It is the same list. I'm trying to know if there's anyone else from Indiana who's doing it. But so this is going back to a little bit older version of this. It almost looks closer to what Jund was back, when we had the Jund version, but 4 Death Shadow, 4 Street Wraith, 4 Goyf, so our threats are just Death Shadow and Goyf. We have 3 Liliana the Veil in the main. We're cutting down to 18 lands, but we're playing Thoughtseize, and we're back to Traverse the Ulan Wald as a way to play those lands through. We have 4 Thoughtseize and 4 Inquisitions. We also have Stubborn Denial, and we have a couple of removal spells in Terminate, Fatal Pushes, Dismembers, and Abrupt Decays. And we're also playing Mishra's Bauble again. So it's pretty straightforward. It seems this is sort of like a weird mixture of the two timelines, right? Like the original version of Death Shadow with Traverses meeting the sort of modern Fatal Push and Stubborn Denial version. And they did pretty well with this deck overall. The sideboard had some cool cards. It goes back to the Ranger of Eos as one of the white cards it can play. And of course, it's playing Lingering Souls, a boards, and a Godless Shrine to do this. But it also has a couple of things like Gorkland Rampager. A lot of the other versions of Grixis Death Shadow have gone back to Temur Battle Rage, either in the sideboard or even in the main. Well, going back to the Traverse package where you can then go for a Gorkland Rampager makes a lot of sense. It's the same concept.
I think Clay did a deck tech where he was like, if you could play like 2, you'd probably play 2 Battle Rages, but since they only had room for 1, then he wanted the Gorkland.
Right, but you ought to sensibly get 5 in the matchup you want, which is cool. And you get to play more Silver Bullets this way too. Like again, Ranger of Eos is a sweet one, and having the option to traverse for it makes it more exciting. Is it Staticaster's a card that obviously we on the show have been a big fan of. Dave
never fan of that
Dave
card.
has actually met Is It Staticaster. It was a cool experience. I know.
Yeah, it was great.
Never a fan.
He follows him on Twitter, and he's a Patreon backer for him for Is It Staticaster, and he got to do a cool little meet and greet. It was kind of
Staticaster's a lady. Thank you very much.
shoot. I didn't even know. I never looked at the art. I'm sorry.
No. But anyway,
Jeez, Mike.
I
Ruined
don't
my whole
like
joke.
that card.
I'm sorry that you don't like that card.
Card ruins days.
No, it doesn't ruin Dave.
Yeah, so-
No, Dave ruins people with it.
Sorry, Morgan.
Yeah, I've been one of those unfortunate souls.
Poor unfortunate souls. And we see Liliana the Last Hope here too. Some copies of Disdainful Stroke, but this deck really gets to do a little bit of everything. And I know Dave, you're a fan of going back to Tarmogoyf, which is a little bit more of a sturdy threat that you can land earlier than Death Shadow, since this deck is not going to be as fast as the other versions of Death Shadow have been.
I just like that it just gets down to business.
Yeah, it really does.
I feel like
To defeat the Huns? Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Let's get down to. Why do you got to do
any
that?
other Disney movies? Any other Disney
welcome.
movie references
No,
you want
we
to fit
can't.
into this?
No, they'll come after us.
Yeah, true.
Is this fair use?
This is fair use.
No, but yeah, I like that you can just play Tarmogoyf and start attacking.
Yeah.
On turn 3 or whatever.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf has a friend in me. That's for sure.
But yeah, this is. I think I know that Clay himself, like he was always the Jund Splash Blue for Stubborn Denial. Like that's what was his version of Death Shadow for the longest time. So we see the him go whole hog. Him and Chris Anderson with the Godless Shrine there in the sideboard for the Lingering Souls. So, I mean, it just shows that like Death Shadow is. It can be many things as far as that goes.
Be possibly all things.
All things. So why limit yourself? Just do whatever you want, and go lower than 13 life and cast a Death Shadow, and then kill your opponent probably, or not.
So, but yeah, this is a deck I at least want to talk about. Like, as far as you look at the numbers for the Open, again, pretty diverse. A lot of different decks showing up. I will say shout out to Jesse Hefner, who's in top 8. So.
Yeah, he was playing the mono white.
He was playing Mono White Death and Taxes.
Death and Taxes,
and
yes.
then we had a copy of the Eldrazi Death and Taxes
Correct,
as well.
the black white version.
One thing I did want to talk about that we put in here, and this is one of the reasons to talk about this, is that we did have an interaction when Chris Anderson was on camera that caused a little bit of discussion over the weekend. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to talk about a couple of things. This is not a conversation about Chris at all. Like that is not. That's not what I intend to do. I'm assuming that's not what we want to do. But there was he lost. He had a couple win and in chances at the end of the day, and he lost to I'm not sure which player in the top 8 it was.
It was the Merfolk player.
Okay. And at the end of his match, he flipped over the cards from his hand. He was land screwed, and he had a number of pretty important cards in his hand that would have helped, and he was flipping them over for his opponent. And Patrick Sullivan sort of ragged on him a little bit for this, like called it out for being not a very sportsmanlike thing to do, and then two was sort of like rag on him, like, oh look, like let me just pour it on. Here's all the things I couldn't cast. Yes, I as your opponent am aware of this. You didn't have lands. Yes, you could have cast spells if you had lands, and Coda sort of took some digs at him a little bit, and this sparked a pretty wide ranging conversation, a lot more conversation I think I would have thought something like this would have, and
whether that was professional,
and I think back to like this is a separate conversation, but I think back to literally we had Jordan again on the show for episode 200, and one of my first memories of Jordan was him making a punt on camera with the Sorin Lord of Innistrad and a bonfire, and the commentator.
Sure, be happy that you brought that up.
Well, no, but I think it was Adam Prozac, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Who now works for WotC. And he was pretty known for he crushed players on camera. Like he made fun of Jordan in that moment. And this is not to call out a WotC employee. I'm just saying that was his style. His style was to be super critical, and that was okay. And I don't know if obviously the image of what Star City has changed, and what the Open Series has changed a little bit. So maybe when people see that and they go, oh wow, this is kind of harsh. But I can think back to not just Adam, a number of when they had a much wider range of people who were commentating.
Yeah,
you had some people who was like, whoa, bud, you're crushing players.
Go back and listen to OSIP's commentary from back in the day.
Yeah, so
this is unofficial WotC coverage,
and we know that has changed, and what is acceptable has changed. And even the scenario I'm describing is back when you still had Innistrad, which is a really good format to draft.
Let me tell you, spider spawning.
But anyways, and there was some backlash about this. Now, obviously, again, not a conversation about Chris, but he is a player who has a history and has some negative things surrounding him. Regardless of earned or if that's has changed now, is neither here nor there. He obviously rebutted this and said that this conversation was taken out of context, that he was talking to his opponent, and that maybe this looked bad, but we don't know the whole story. But people were sort of interested in whether or not it was okay for Patrick to do this. And then it sparked a couple other conversations with players who had reputations in the past, and then how that has changed, and what sort of is their who's the onus on there? Is the onus on the commentator to be aware of what the situation actually is? Is the onus on a person who is sort of trying to change their image to not do something on camera that may be perceived, even if your conversation is friendly at the table? Are you supposed to be aware of the perception if you want that to truly change? A lot of this is stemming from comments that come from Twitch. Are we supposed to just ignore everything Twitch says? Because let's be honest,
yes,
the comments are an ocean of trash. Okay.
And the answer is yes to that. I'm very certain.
and I think that's true as well. But at the same time, what I think was most interesting about that is I think it's true to ignore that. But I think the voice that came out strongest about this entire thing, and the reason I'm talking about this, is that Jerry Thompson sort of arose as a person talking about how, one, yeah, the comments are trash, but if they're saying those things, they didn't get it from nowhere. Right?
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter who the player is. Again, it doesn't matter who the player is. Reputations are earned in one way or the other. It's the same reason why players who we know that have done some questionable things, but their standing in the community then makes Twitch comments swoon for them, even though we can go, oh, wait, that's weird, right? So it does go both ways, and it can be all-encompassing even when that's not fair. But it did spark Jerry to write an article talking about his own past, which I think a lot of people aren't, maybe especially more modern players, aren't aware that he had not the greatest reputation. We used to talk before, and I keep mentioning Jordan, which is okay because he was on the show recently, so this works for us. But him talking about his favorite memory of Cedric Phillips talking was Cedric Phillips always talking about his Esper Charm next level, where he asked his opponent who the target was for Esper Charm, and his opponent said himself.
He was trying to draw cards.
Yeah, he's trying to draw cards. So he said target myself. Well, the draw cards doesn't say target. The only part that says target is discard, and that's what he said, right? And that's, you can decide how you feel about that line. Jordan liked that line, but that's the kind of thing that Cedric doesn't talk about as much anymore. He's really stepped away from that. And Jerry as well, who's obviously become this person who won, is probably one of the few reasons that we've talked about this before. But like, I have premium, and I'm sorry, this article is still currently on premium. I know some people have wanted to, but I have premium because I enjoy reading him. And he's really made a difference, with the game podcast and the players that he sort of cultivated. You can follow the line even to like BBD being the world champion as being part of this group, cultivating there, and the changes they've made. And I thought that was really interesting about, should we as a player base, I guess, and I don't want to work into like a question of the week here or something. I want to just kind of talk about it, but should we as a player base, is that okay? Like, is it fair that? Like, should we actually be holding Jerry or players like Jerry more accountable? Should the transformation be accepted at face value? If you haven't had a chance and you don't have premium, and I'm sorry, if you do, this is the kind of thing that I would even pay for a week to read. And I'm not going to like spoil all the things he says because this is paid content. He deserves to be paid for the content he wrote. And it was just a really good piece and really heartfelt. And I just want to, I don't know where I stand on it. I know that I really enjoyed his take on it and what his thoughts were about that transformation. And I don't know if I have good answers to the questions I even want to ask. Like, going back to is the onus on the commentator to recognize a person who's trying to make a change? Is it onto the player to make this change? I think Jerry would suggest that it's on the player. But what do you guys think? I think I keep bearing the lead when I talk, and I'm sorry. I'm just talking too much.
I mean, so regardless of what you do, you gain a reputation if you continue to act a certain way, whether it's playing Magic or being at work, being around your friends, being a face, a known quantity within a community. And once those get set, it is sometimes hard to work them out. And even when you are trying to change them, even when you are trying to turn around and be different, you can't expect the world to just suddenly realize that and snap into place for you. Like, people are still going to make the same assumptions about you that they made previously, regardless of who you are now compared to who you are then. So things like this can happen. People can say something based on how you used to be, and if that's not how you are, like, that's tough, but it's not like you haven't earned what they said about you. The best that you can do is just continue being, hopefully, the better person that you are. And, if the comments were in a negative light, as they were in this particular situation, and if you can provide, context, but, just be like, I would say that the part of becoming a better person comparatively to who you are is definitely learning how to take something like this on the chin and still be able to convey your point and get your point across and not add further negativity to the situation.
That's fair.
I think it depends on the person, really. You mentioned, like, if you're a well-known player or if you're a pillar of the community, should you be expected to act a certain way? I think it depends on it depends on the person. If you care what other people think and you want to make a change, then yeah, do it. If you don't care what people think and you're just going to do your own thing, that's cool too. But you're going to have a reputation that goes with that. I think in Magic, we have a lot of good ambassadors for the game. If you look at a lot of the, like, William Huey Jensen, our current world champion, I think he's a great ambassador for the game. He writes articles, he does commentary, he does things the right way. And, a lot of the top level pros are active on social media and things like that. And for the most part, I think it's pretty positive. Jerry is certainly near the top of the list of, pros in the community that uses his position, for good. So, and that's a choice that he made, and I think that's great. But, I think each person's going to do their own thing.
Now, I do want to at least, and maybe this is something we can answer, but I do want to add some other wrinkles to this that I think are interesting. Again, not a conversation about the things that this is not a Reddit thread to discuss things that, about Chris or anything like that. But to Chris's credit, you have things like the Kiefer brothers, who have become their own sort of pillars in the community and have really, like, I think, been like leaders for a younger generation, like of Magic tournament players. Mm-hmm. And he really is sort of like that was the coach element of that. You know what I mean? And I think like that's something that maybe people like when you look at the Twitch stuff and you look at like the commentary stuff, like that stuff's easy to put aside to make a quick joke. And I do think the other part of that too is that you have forgiveness from the Magic community in general that doesn't come from what I feel is always earned. It comes from success. And
people are willing to look past
yes,
certain
because
things.
they want to be a part of it.
Yeah,
you know what I
can
mean?
see that.
Like everyone wants to go up to a good player and be like, "Hey, this good job, good on you." And then when they interact and acknowledge you, you feel personally good about that. So you're much quicker to forgive. You know what I mean? A player and this, Chris specifically was in this situation. I know was not playing Magic for a while. For whatever reason, you stepped away for a little bit. So he doesn't have that sort of like muscle memory on that end of it, but the negativity remained. Whereas someone like Jerry, who obviously has made good decisions, but at the same time, I think would admit, and I'll make this assumption that forgiveness process is easier when you top 8 Pro Tours because people want to like you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's frustrating, and I know that players, some players have been frustrated with SCG because they like to do their replays, and they like to replay moments that can be frustrating for some people. Players even in this conversation who have had something that was repeated over and over again and is shown during those replays, and again, it builds that muscle memory even when that player is not playing in their tournaments. And SCG can do what it wants. But when you look at it from that angle, I do think you have to look at the commentary a little bit and go, okay, like maybe the commentator, Patrick isn't making the decision to what videos play during this, but they're building a narrative, and there's a responsibility in that. So I don't know what the right answer for that is, but I think it's worth looking at it on both sides. If you're sitting here and you have an opinion, think about the concept of maybe the players you like who have done shady things in the past, maybe you like them more because they're successful, and you actually now view them as a good person, not because of things they've done as good, but because you know them as a good player. Be careful with that. And the flip side too is don't let things like the Twitch commentary just jade your opinion. If you want to know, if you don't like this person, you don't like this person. That's fine. You don't have to. But at the same time, piling on when all you're seeing is the same thing repeated over and over again. You know what I mean? Everybody makes bad mistakes in the past, and you're right. Like you said, Morgan, you earn a reputation. But when you're dealing with notoriety versus reputation, that can get a little tough if you're going to hold a personal grudge against a person for things that they never did to you and you don't see firsthand, that aren't crimes. I want to be aware that you can, if someone did something terrible, by all means, but if someone was crappy to a person in a Magic interaction and you read that on a Reddit thread and you go, well, I don't like this person anymore, you don't have to like them, you don't have to respect them, but maybe don't go and trash them on internet threads. That's weird. So I don't know what my point is with that. I think it's just I really like people to hear that. Maybe just consider their own actions. That's all.
So I mean, with the whole situation that happened, I saw that I got to watch it live. I was watching the actual
Watch
thing
live. Sorry.
Thing that happened when it happened, and I laughed. I thought it was funny. But I also knew that I didn't feel it was personal. I think regardless of the player, that if that was the same situation with just a different player, that Patrick Sullivan would have made those same comments. And I don't think it matters necessarily. And that's kind of, but I think that's why I didn't think anything of it, because it's just that's just something that Patrick Sullivan just would have said.
That goes to a conversation that we had though separately, which I think isn't really pertinent to this. But
yeah.
I disagree. Because I think he wouldn't do that to someone who wasn't notable. I think they tend to ignore people who aren't notable. So
I think they've even said in the past that for somebody who appears to be nervous on camera, they're gonna go a little easy on him versus somebody who's
they haven't seen before and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I think that the notoriety in general is what loosens the wheels a little bit. So, but I think that's a different conversation that would take up a lot more time and maybe something we could revisit later. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that he would do that to somebody else who doesn't have some amount of notoriety. Now, I do think that if it was someone else who did it, who doesn't normally do that, but was still notable, you might see it as ribbing, right? And I think it's tough because I could be in that situation where if I look back at that and if I was that person who was yeah, this is what I had in my hand, right? But my conversation with my opponent was really genial, but then I go back and watch it and it looks like I'm tilting, I would be frustrated about that, right? I could see being frustrated where it's well, that's not what the conversation was. But I also know that, for myself, even locally, there are some people who'll still know me as a person who just tilts. And if they assumed I was doing that, I do also think I would have to be able to go, yeah, I could see that. And I think that's where the middle ground is, no matter what.
I mean, as a person like you, I think you have the right to set the record straight and tell your side of the story.
Absolutely.
But I don't think you have the grounds to also be like upset that people took you that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I will say, Mike, for the record, that is a staple of yours. When you tilt off, you tend to lay out.
Oh, I definitely do.
Yeah.
I try
All
not
the time.
to. I try not to anymore. But it's just like no. But see, I will say, I more than 50% of the time when I do that, I like if we're discussing, even if I'm frustrated, I'll be like, yeah, I missed the land drop for this card. Like, and like a lot of times I like to ask, like I wonder what the board state would have been like if we were able to do that. Right? It's not like it's going to change the loss, or I'm not lobbying for anything. But I know I have a tendency to do that because the way I think about the game is to think about outs and lines all the time. So that is literally what is branded onto my forehead at that exact moment. So, but you're not wrong, and you could probably catch me on camera doing that. So, I don't know. Heck, I have to go back and watch. I wonder if I did that. I'm trying to think because like the times I've lost on camera, which has not been often, but I've also not been on camera that often.
Humble brags.
Yeah, well,
I was on camera that
but the
often,
first time I was on camera, I lost to Owen. You know what I mean? And I wonder if I did that because I know at the end of that match we had both flooded so much that we were both like, "Yeah, we did this." And I wonder if I did. And it could be read that way. But I was a nobody, and no one was going to say that to me then. I lost to Owen. It doesn't matter what I do. I kicked the table at
You
him.
were
Then
supposed to
maybe
lose
that's it.
to.
Yeah, I'm supposed to. So, anyways, we can move on. I know we've got a couple of things to talk about before we're
Talk
done.
about legacy.
But never mind.
Anyway, what's going on this weekend? No, we'll talk about legacy a little bit. We're legacy experts on this podcast.
I mean,
me and Mike.
I have top forward all the legacy events I've played this year, which
I've won every legacy event I've played in the last 3 years.
that's awesome.
Who else can say that? Come on.
Wow. So yeah, we have Legacy in Washington D.C. and we have John Goss winning with Esper Deathblade, which I'm really a big fan of all the Deathblade decks. I'm always happy to see those come back. It just makes me really happy to see the Stoneforge in this. I honestly, the first Legacy deck I ever enjoyed really wanted to play was the Lingering Souls Deathblade deck that Tom Martell won GP Indy with
It's like Esper
5 years
Stoneblade.
ago. Esper, yeah. So we have some other people in the top 8 though. We have Bob Huang.
Was he playing
Pirates?
Was he playing Pirates?
He was playing Grixis Delver. So
Oh well.
I do wish he would have put like one of those bad like Rishan cup or something in his sideboard just so you could see it. You get a deck tech so you could just wink at the camera. But we see pretty diverse top 8, right? We have Desperate Deathblade, Punishing Abzan, Grixis Delver, Eldrazi. People call this Eldrazi just showing up. Storm, Caleb Shearer, by the way.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah. It was the biggest surprise of the
Like
tournament.
in the profiles, it's like, why did you play this deck? It's like, because I always play Storm.
Yeah, because I play
Yep.
Storm. Like, why not?
Accurate.
Accurate.
You have Teamer Delver, another copy of Grixis Delver, and then Blue White Control, which is, let me see here. Is this the...
I don't think
Yeah.
this was the Helm version.
No, this is Miracles.
Miracle, yeah. With actual Terminus.
Yeah, it's actual Miracles. Like, it's playing Portent and Ponder and Brainstorm.
So, due to an error in reporting on the MTG Goldfish page for this event, the 7th place Grixis Delver deck is the cheapest Legacy deck ever. It is $0
Whoa, buy it now, guys.
Just show up to the store, they just hand you the cards.
because there's
One
no
Grixis
deck
Delver
list.
deck, please. Well, you got us.
Which is funny because it's like 3,000, 2,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000, 2,000, $0. Oh,
Actually insane.
So one thing I want to point out in this blue-white control deck, and this is actually a non-creature spell that
There
has
you go.
shown up
There you
in
go.
older formats, so I'll give you that. Search for Azcanta,
Yeah,
which,
because the card is disgusting.
yeah, so this card broke out at the World Championships in the blue-black control deck, and I would expect to see a lot more of it this weekend at the Pro Tour. But yeah, people have been trying to kind of find ways to get it into older formats. I see some people experimenting in Modern. I didn't expect to see it in Legacy, but kind of makes sense.
So, just thinking about how this setup works, and obviously, I'm glad that we don't have top anymore because Do you know how disgusting that card is with top? You talk about wanting shuffle effects. How about a card that just says remove the top 3 cards from your library from the top of it anymore? Like it's just gone. Let's get a new look.
Top card. Right.
What? You look at the top 4, take a thing.
Oh, you're saying if it flips?
Yeah,
I was just thinking the
I'm saying
enchantment.
literally you don't even need a shuffle effect anymore. You're just like it's already great in here. Like you brainstorm with Jason, you're like, well, I don't want these anymore. Let's go ahead and fire up Azcanta. And that's I'm talking about the land. Yeah, I'm sorry, not the actual just enchantment. That's already good enough.
Yeah.
But that to me is kind of scary. I think it would have been scary with top. You just you're never locked. Like once you have it flipped, you're never actually locked. So, I think it's cool. Hilariously that miracles just won't die. But at the same time, I think Legacy needs decks like this too, and it's cool to see a deck like this. Here's just a bunch of basic islands and plains, and the only creature Snapcaster Mage, and we're just playing Jace and a bunch of spells, and that's
3 counter spells, man.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's got Counterspell, Wrath of God, Brainstorm. We're just.
I guess I want to know what art of Counterspell he was running.
No.
I mean, we'll never know.
Well, you can probably go back and watch.
We'll never know, Dave.
Us 3 will never know,
That's
but
true.
somebody out there knows.
I hope it was
beta.
See, I disagree. Ice Age is the best one.
No,
because the flavor text is so hot on those Ice Age Counterspells.
I hate Ice Age cards because of the shininess. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking
that's
about?
fair, but
they had some weird card stock.
What it should be is all invocations because that Counterspell is also gorgeous, but hard to read.
I'm not sure if Matt Corando is a foil guy. Could be. A lot of Legacy players that like to, foil out their decks.
But we had other other notables. We had Dylan Donegan in ninth place with Grixis Delver. Weird, likes his elemental tokens, and Jody Keith with lands.
Yeah, he's really good with lands.
That guy is really that. That is his real claim, and is obviously very good with it. So, you have local player Michael Coyle with that Sweet Metalworker deck, which destroyed me when we played our match when we played in the Legacy Expo. And that was my loss in the Swiss. Our match took 7 minutes, I think, and that includes sideboarding. I just died. I was like, all right, cool. I don't know what I'm doing. This is yours. You can have it. He went infinite with Staff of Domination in 2 turns. In game 1 against me, he's like, yeah, okay, draw your deck, gain your life. I don't care. Do what you got to do.
Just get me out of here.
Yeah, I'm just okay.
Go get some lunch.
Shuffle it up. I did afterwards. It was great.
Yeah.
And here we see the power of Salon with Sorcerer's Spyglass here in the main deck of the Michael's deck.
Yeah, that's a card that's showed up more than I expected. It sees play in the Eldrazi decks in Modern as well because it is a 2-mana spell, so it doesn't get countered by your Chalice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting for that reason. So, but yeah. So, is there anything else we want to talk about for Legacy?
I'll be honest, I didn't really go through all these lists, so there might be something sweet tech that we're kind of missing here, but we're not really Legacy guys. I like to pretend like I'm a Legacy guy, but not really a Legacy guy.
I'm just jealous of this sweet promo Tabernacle, the Pendro Veil that Magic Online gets. That we can't.
Is it a promo?
Yeah. It's got cool art.
I guess they can do that on Magic Online.
Yeah, they can
Can't
do whatever they
that in real
want.
life.
It's the Wild West.
I'll just point out here, real quick. Todd Stevens finished 12th, and for another guy that doesn't really play Legacy, at his own admission, he kind of brought his own flavor here. Of
will that guy ever not play Romano Excavator?
He's been known to play, Ghost Quarter in every deck, pretty much. And he gets to swap them out for Wastelands. So he's playing a kind of value green deck, which I guess he's also known for. He's been playing the green white kind of value town decks in Modern, and this is kind of like the Legacy version of that. He's got Night of the Reliquaries, Ramunap Excavator, like you mentioned. He's kind of running a little bit of a package here with the Green Sun Zenith. Life from the Loam, just getting a little bit of value there. Chalice of the Void, that's another card that he's pretty fond of. So it's kind of like he took a Modern deck and he just ported it to Legacy. Added some more powerful cards. But this isn't really anything that I was too familiar with as far as Legacy. I mean, I guess we've seen some Abzan colored Loam decks, but this isn't really what I was expecting to see.
I have a weird question about this deck. Isn't Gaddock Teeg really a weird card in this deck? You have 8
for-
X spells in your deck.
For
You can't play Chalice of the Void or Greens and Zenith anymore when you have it here. I know the matches that it's very good against. It's very, very good against.
yeah,
But that just seems like a card that you're asking for. For the main deck, that seems odd.
I think it's fairly common for Green Sun Zenith decks. I've seen that.
Ones that also
even
play Chalice?
not the ones that also play Chalice, but like Elves, for example, it has played Zenith, Green Sun Zenith, and
And sure, and that makes sense because they just want to attack afterwards. And this deck can do that too. I just see that and I go like, these cards are in the same space. Is a little interesting. But
Is this right? Chandra Torture Defiance, is that correct? Does he even have like 2 red sources in the deck? I guess he has a Tega and a Grove. I guess Grove of the Burnwillows. That's really odd. I guess 1 Deathrite Shaman, which is also very odd. But
yeah, I think that's right. I assume it's right. Interesting.
I don't know. It's kind of this list is kind of out there, but good on him for a pretty respectable finish for somebody that doesn't.
I like that the Tabernacle and the sideboard is as expensive as the rest of the deck combined. So that's pretty hilarious. Actually,
what are
probably
those going
much
for
more
now?
expensive. Oh, Tabernacle's at $1,500 casual. Just casual. Yeah. Italian one, though, you can save a lot of money.
Save $350.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money, but
Yeah.
nah, I'm good.
All right. Get that Magic Online promo. What's that cost on Magic Online? 50 cents?
And then print it out.
Is that 50 cents on Magic Online?
It's like $8 on Magic Online.
Can I redeem it? Is there a redemption for that one?
Oh man.
Yeah. That's it. I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
have anything
Let's
else.
talk about the classic then. It was the modern classic,
Oh, yeah, we still had a classic.
and
Well,
we'll go pretty quickly. It was won by Matt Ling playing humans
Women's.
again, and yeah, we can kind of see like this deck might be a real thing.
You kind of see the exact 75 that Collins Mullen played in the Open the previous week. So,
Yeah.
real deal. Yeah. I don't know. I've been trying to come up with ways to fight against this deck. I think, it's obvious to say, well, just play more sweepers.
Yeah.
And that's probably true.
And
But
Engineered Plague is not legal in modern.
Nope. Unfortunately not, or fortunately not. I don't know.
that'd be a crazy reprint, huh?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see
tribal set.
that one in Ixalan.
That would be one that they would print in, like, the next set. They're like, not in Ixalan block. We'll do that.
Dominaria? I mean, there were a lot of racist characters in Dominaria, so I guess that makes sense. It's where it was printed the first time. But I think it was a Phyrexian card the first time, right? Like, that's the whole point of the card. So we go back to Mirrodin, New Phyrexia, then we can get your
There
play
you
once
go.
again. How are we going to get rid of all these Koths in the furnace? Let's engineer a plague. Hashtag Kothwatch.
He defeated Mitchell
Mitchell
Forst,
Forst.
Playing Blue Red Breach, which is kind of a bit of a new kid on the block, sort of kinda.
It's been picking up some steam.
Yeah, for sure. Some steam vents. And it's a through the breach deck that is
delayed, I'm sorry.
playing the Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, of course. But you're also just kind of playing like a Blue Moon sort of esque game a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's essentially it's very close to Splinter Twin, like Blue Red Splinter Twin,
Yeah.
except you're swapping out the twin combo for Through the Breach Emrakul, which is kind of like its own 2-card combo that ends the game.
Yeah.
Not as good, but
No.
does the trick
Not
against
as-
a lot of decks.
yeah.
Like you just kind of sit there and just control the board, and then you just hit him with an Emrakul, and the game essentially ends. I actually do like this deck a lot. I just don't have Through the Breaches or Emrakuls, so it's kind of a lot.
Kind of not gonna play it.
Kind of not. But I actually would think, and we don't know if they actually played this out. I know sometimes people split, whatever. But so we'll just assume that they did play it out and Matt Lane won. But I would think that Breach would have a good matchup against humans. You have things like Anger of the Gods and Blood Moon, like we said, which should be a pretty effective card against them. But I think it's possible for humans to just come out really quickly and kind of overwhelm them as well.
Anything else from the classic you want to talk about?
Infect.
Oh, yeah, Zan Said.
Zin said, so he's been kind of working on this list. He had, I think, like a 9th place finish. Was it the week before?
Was he the one who was running
Classic?
Invisible Stalkers?
No.
Okay, I don't remember who it was. I meant before because there was a recent list that was running Invisible Stalkers out of the board to to beat Death Shadow.
That's cute.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's actually great.
But yeah, I mean, Infect may be in a pretty good spot here. I think it's pretty good against Storm, and as we mentioned, Storm is tier 1 in Modern and has been doing pretty well. Not sure how it does against humans. Like humans being the new deck, it's really hard to I personally have not played against the deck yet, so I might give a dumbfounded face right now.
So it's playing Shaper Sanctuary in the sideboard, which is a card we know has been picking up steam for Modern. So
yeah,
I cast Lightning Bolt targeting your Inkmoth Nexus.
yeah,
Trigger Shaper Sanctuary.
yeah.
Then you pay 2 life and change the target of that spell with Spellskite to Spellskite. Does it become the target of that spell?
I don't know.
I actually do not know the answer to this. Do you draw another card
You're
off
the
this?
judge, man. I don't know.
If you have 2 Spellskites,
oh god,
can we draw a number of cards equal to our life total?
is this like some Yawgmoth's bargain shenanigans going on?
Well, because there was another way that was how you could kill somebody with a Spellskite and Wild Defiance. If you had 2 Spellskites, you could bounce the trigger off each other until one was big enough and then attack. That was an actual thing you could do.
Okay, so all right, for this to work with this specific list, you need to have both Spellskites that are in the sideboard as well as a Shaper Sanctuary.
Correct.
In play, and then have
another
target.
creature, and then your opponent casts a spell on that creature.
Okay,
But yes, we could go to town, is what I'm suggesting.
sure.
So either way, I have to check on that, but I'm fairly certain that's how that interaction works with Spellskite, is becomes the target of it. So because you change the target of it. Maybe it doesn't work that way. I guess I need to go read Wild Defiance. This is me being the judge and not knowing. These ideas pop in my head and I don't know, so I'll go back and check on that. I think Morgan's looking
Hit us
it
up
right
on
now,
social
but-
media if you know the answer to this. All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in fact it's interesting. It was obviously pushed out of the format, literally by Fatal Push, and also losing Probe was a big deal. But I don't know. Maybe now's the time, I guess. Bring it back.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
I think it does work, but
Yeah, I'm reading something right now that's suggesting it does.
I mean, it's a new target that's being,
Yeah.
I guess that's a fairly nifty thing that you can do with that card.
Nice.
Another infect list. And
Yeah, literally everything I'm reading now is like, wouldn't it be cool if you had 2 Spellskites? It's like, yeah, guys, it would be cool.
It would be cool. I agree. Yeah, there's another infect list in the 11th, potted by Chris Wong.
This one's splashing white. That is something.
Playing some
Rest in Pieces in the sideboard and a Path and a Gaddock Teague. The aforementioned Gaddock Teague shows up again.
He's at the judge foil and was like, well, I want to play this.
Yeah, this is cool art. Man, what is that for? Like, just Wrath, I guess? No, that's not even. Is that even good? It's got to be something that I'm just not thinking of. I guess like Chalice, but that's you can play that before. I don't know. I'm thinking about this too hard.
I mean, they can't cast gifts if you have it in there.
Well, like you should beat that deck anyway.
I'm just trying to come up with spells.
You have like
man.
Spell Pierce, man. You just crush him. I don't know, but yeah.
Just when you absolutely positively do not want to get bonfired. That's in the format. It exists. It's a card.
It is a card.
All right, want to finish up?
Yeah. Anything else before we leave this modern classic?
Nope. Move on.
All right. Before we head into the wrap up, we do want to give a shout out, of course, to BCW Supplies. You can check them out at bcwsupplies.com or find them on Facebook by doing a quick search for BCW Supplies. They are a wonderful purveyor of sleeves, deck boxes, binders, what have you. They have it for you as far as that's concerned. So definitely check out their products and make an order with them. You won't be disappointed at all. All right. So this weekend we have Pro Tour Ixalan. Obviously, this has been the delayed Pro Tour. This should have happened right around the time we had Worlds. And what do you guys think? Do you think that the kind of the wins are out of the sale for the Pro Tour? Are you still excited?
I'm still excited, but I guess I'm a little bit worried. I would have thought that more things in the format, if they existed, would have presented themselves. I'm not as hopeful as I think I would have been a couple weeks ago that something new was going to happen, especially with what we saw in the World's metagame. Obviously, the World's metagame is small, but that's a Pro's metagame. I will say Blue Black has really fallen out of favor. It is almost nowhere to be seen on Magic Online right now, especially not in the form that we saw at Worlds or even at Nationals. And we've really seen the rise of various token strategies. So I think it'll be interesting to see, will players go back to Blue Black? Will it just be 9 million flavors of Teamer, because Teamer's pretty good right now? Will Sam Black break tokens? I think there's some compelling storylines, but I'm worried that we are going to just see the same decks we've already seen, albeit maybe better forms of it. But I'm not holding out hope that we get to see something like I think before I would have been like, maybe someone wants to play no one's gonna play dinosaurs. No one's gonna play these decks. You know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm not as optimistic for new things, but I'm excited to watch it. Like, I'm actually excited to watch the Pro Tour, so I think there's a balance.
Okay.
So a couple of things. Number one, this Pro Tour feels like it came out of nowhere. Maybe it's just because I've been on vacation and I've been kind of out of the loop. I'm like, there's a Pro Tour coming up this weekend. Number two, I will say I'm not as excited for this one because I feel like, the format has already been solved. Like, we've already had not even one but two high-level events since, Ixalan's come out, the Worlds, and then to a lesser extent Nationals.
We also had an Open. You know what I mean? Which normally leads directly into the Pro Tour.
Well, the Opens always happen though, so sure, I don't even count that. But we've had high-level pro events, and it just feels like, I don't know. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess we have to do this Pro Tour too. So it's fine. I don't think there's going to be really anything new. We might see some new twists on existing decks.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to watch because I love watching Pro Tours, but I'm not. It doesn't have the same excitement for me.
I will say this. Obviously we've made the executive decision that we're not about limited anyways, but most limited formats were at least like when you saw last Pro Tour and you saw Sam Black just playing here's the 20 million Deserts 5-color play everything you want deck, and I'm like, cool, this is fun to watch. Ixalan is awful to watch. I still don't hate the format with a passion, but I'm certainly low on it and have continued to get lower and lower, and it's not fun to watch. It's not that fun to interact with. So that kind of does put a little bit of a damper on it for me, because it's okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, good, you drafted the hostage taker. Oh, well, you win then.
you did it. Congratulations. So, hey, I've beaten a hostage taker in limited, I think.
I've beaten a hostage taker. I've had the same hostage taker cast against me 4 times in the same game. Sometimes the hostage taketh and the hostage giveth away.
You did it. Congratulations. So that the Pro Tour is going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I believe is going to be in the I
hope nobody gets lost on their way there. Makes a wrong turn.
Makes a wrong turn.
If you find Walter White's house from the show, don't throw pizza up on the roof.
Yeah, they had to put a special fence up for that. Didn't they?
The people that live there don't enjoy that. So don't be that guy.
I feel like the first time you'd be like, oh, like the show, and then when there's more than one pizza on your roof, and you're like, I don't want to. Why do I have to keep getting pizza on
their whole roof is just covered with pizzas? Did it again.
A billion birds eating all the pizzas. What's that creaking sound on the roof? It's the weight of 600 birds eating pizza.
Devouring 20 pizzas that have been tossed upon your roof. It's going to be in the Pacific Standard time zone, so you can check Wizards' official page for all the start times for the Pro Tour and everything, regardless of where you are in the world.
Speaking of time zones, it was weird being in Hawaii.
Yeah, I bet it was.
6 hours behind the Eastern time zone.
Yeah, the future wasn't great. Sorry.
I was watching NFL football at 7 in the morning. It was kind of sweet, actually.
I watched NFL football at 9:30 this morning, or 9:30 this last Sunday. Because they were in London, and it was terrible. But for both of you, guys went from really warm climates to now it's 37 degrees here. Deal with it.
Sucked.
Welcome back. Ohio
Awful.
Never leaves.
Yeah, the harsh reality set. Harsh reality set in once we landed in Columbus, and they opened the door, and it was just the cold
You're
fall.
You know what?
The crisp fall air came in. I was like, all right, back to this, I guess.
No more shorts for me.
Yeah, no shorts and flip flops.
Oh, I'll still wear those, but I'm fat, so.
We also have Star City Games regionals, as we already discussed. It'll be modern, and if you aren't local or in the Midwest area, you can definitely find where your regionals is being taken place.
Being hostage, where your local
Hostage
regionals
given.
is hostage taking place.
Where your regionals is taking place on Star City Games website.
Is it still like? Is it still plant your flag? Is that still the thing
I
for
don't
this?
know.
I don't know. Win it.
I will be there,
In it to win it.
and I'm bringing back an old friend.
Oh gosh, I bet it's Delver.
Stay tuned next week.
The tagline is still plant your flag.
Yeah, all right, cool. I did it. Plant your flag with flying insect men.
Why not?
Yes.
They're not an aberration, despite what the card might tell you.
But those are the two things happening over the weekend. Of course, we do thank you for listening to the show. If you are listening via iTunes, please feel free to leave us a review. It helps with visibility. Also, if you... what was that? What are you doing, Dave?
I unplugged my computer and
Jeez.
the thing fell. Sorry.
Also, you can check us out on our social media. So if you like Twitter, we are Your End Step. And then when you add us, it's at Your End Step. So pretty clever. And then we have Facebook. It's just do search for at Your End Step on Facebook. You can also check out our sponsors while you're on there. It's just BCW Supplies and Comic Con Gaming Center for those searches. Give them a like and make sure you follow their product announcements and or events that are going to be going on. If you want to reach out to us via email, it's just at yourendstep@gmail.com. We also, if you are listening to us via MTG Cast, feel free to check out some of the other lovely shows that exist on that network. Plenty of stuff for every kind of Magic fandom that you might have. So definitely a lot of options to check out there. But that's going to be everything for this week. We'll catch you guys next time, and you have a great one. Bye.